Hello and welcome back, all of you super fine ass specimens, to the RimWorld Continental Army series. Obviously, as you've probably noticed, it's been about, I want to say, 2 weeks since we've uploaded an episode of the RimWorld Continental Army. I'm getting a little bit burnt out, or at least I was, but I'm ready to come back and I'm having a good time. And as you'll see in today's episode, I have a few new mods and ideas and things like that to kind of refresh the series and just give it a little more flavor. Huzzah! Would you look at that? Speaking of flavor, there's nothing more flavorful than killing a bunch of filthy bullfrogs. And I am just ever so darn tickled to kill some, what are they holding? Well, that's a very strange looking musket, and it also fires very quickly. How bad could it be? There's still a bunch of dumbass bullfrog warrior humanoid creatures. I'm sure it'll be fine, nothing to be concerned with. I mean, sure, they had clubs last episode, and now they have assault rifles. I mean, we'll probably be fine. Unfortunately, the raid came in right on the same side that Valentine was trying to clean up bodies on, so he had to make a rush all the way back to our fortification, but luckily he did do so unscathed. Our other soldiers very quickly ran outside to our defenses, especially Jonathan and the other sharpshooters, who were very crucial during this battle as they were the only ones who had such a far reach. And the reach of their sniper rifles gave us a massive advantage over the frogs and their assault rifles. Because of course, though their assault rifles had a much higher damage and shot very quickly, they couldn't reach us near as far as we could reach them. Regardless though, these assault rifles and these frogs were still a massive threat. This was a very crucial and dangerous battle for us. And though as much as I hate to say it, the frogs fought very valiantly, very bravely as well, I might add. As brave as you could, fighting a bunch of people with muskets with an assault rifle, of course. After several of them had fallen though, they did begin to flee, and I began to wonder to myself, was this truly a raid, or was this a test of their new weapons and armor? Because for you see, even though they hadn't managed to kill any of our soldiers, they did manage to injure several of them, giving them some important feedback on how their weapons operate. To find out more information, we thought we would ask one of the locals. One of the frogs that had been down during the battle was still alive, so we thought we might be real nice and we're gonna torture him. But of course, before we began slicing the webs between his little amphibian toes and pouring salt into them, we would need to heal him from his previous wounds during the battle. Of course, after doing so, word was then sent to Cosmic. After stripping the frog of his attire, Cosmic would then enter the cell with his charm and his charming tools and ways of making these frogs squeal. Ah yes, Cosmic old boy, you've done it again. Turns out that the bullfrogs and the British have some type of secret pact ongoing now. Due to their mutual hatred of us here, it turns out that the British are actually supplying them with gunpowder and other types of weapons, and through the sorcery and black magic of communism, these bullfrogs have created assault rifles. But even though these weapons have been created from disgusting communism, it made me begin to wonder if we could use our American ingenuity to reverse engineer these weapons into something more free and American, something more democratic. So we have assigned Kenzaki to actually try and reverse engineer one of these weapons and see what she can do with it, see what kind of magic she can work on it. After some time, Kenzaki had finally finished the project, and in front of President Henry as well as our other leaders, she brought forth a brand new weapon, a much more American weapon. She laid the weapon on the ground so that they may inspect it, and I present to you the most free, democratic American weapon I could think of, the M16 assault rifle. This bad boy has red, white, and blue running through its chambers, and it is more than ready to be tested against our enemies. However, who would test such a weapon? President Henry decided since Kenzaki is the one who technically created it from the communist weapons, she should be the one to wield it. And I felt that this would also be the perfect opportunity to give Kenzaki a better place in our military. Since Henry is now the president, we don't have a general over the Continental Army. Thus, this honor has been bestowed upon Kenzaki. Now, since the founding of New Marsai, as well as us splitting our soldiers up into different groups and types of soldiers and things like that, our army is quite a bit smaller. But Kenzaki would be in charge of these soldiers as well as all other soldiers in the entire army. So we only thought it fair that she and our cavalry units would be sent out to attack a nearby British outpost where the British as well as the bullfrogs were conversing. Now, of course, naturally, naturally, as you probably imagine, this is not going to completely stop either faction from attacking us, but this is going to make the raids less frequent as we're getting rid of an outpost they've been using to attack nearby. Now in the meantime, while they're traveling there, at New Marsai, we actually have our very first harvest of smoke leaf. And as I've mentioned previously, this beautiful little cash crop is going to make us a lot of dinero, a lot of moolah, but first we're going to have to start rolling this shit up into joints. To begin with, we're only going to have 2 crafting spots where 2 of our colonists will begin doing this. Eventually, of course, I'd like to add on to that though and have 3, 4, maybe even 5. And with that though, our very first smoke leaf joint. Hopefully the first of many, many, many smoke leaf joints that we can sell to all of our colonial allies. But it was around this time though that we had finally arrived at the British and Bullfrog outpost, and we were preparing ourselves, preparing to smash them into the dust, of course. Generals Kenzaki and Kaiser were preparing their men for battle. Though they did not have a lot of soldiers, they had something much better: a good plan. And of course, by a good plan, I mean I'm completely joking. The only idea that I had here was to maybe try and use our cavalry units to flank the enemy, and I kinda, sorta, maybe did that in the beginning, and it really didn't work, and I was afraid someone was going to die, so we kinda just grouped them all back together. And of course, this seemed to work out a lot better for us, and eventually, after beating the absolute shit out of their little asses like a damn drum, they eventually began to flee. With the ever-looming threat of the Bullfrogs and the British defeated, it was finally time for us to enter their little outpost here and see what's going on within, see what they house here. Kenzaki and Kaiser rushed into the outpost, and they had no fear as the new assault rifle that we had created was a bit of a problem solver. Though unfortunately there was hardly anything interesting within. There were a few meals, and then we stumbled upon a table with several chairs. It looks to have been a meeting room, and then we also spotted a bunch of jade in the corner of the room. It did occur to us that this jade is most likely payment from the Bullfrogs to the British for the supplies on the recent raid that happened back at Rats Valley. So naturally, of course, we loaded it all up and began to take it back home with us. And of course, as you can imagine, the journey is going to take quite a while before we finally returned home, so we'll check back in on them in a minute. Now at this point in the episode, you may be asking yourself, just as I was while playing, where is Beardy? I haven't seen Beardy in quite a while. Well, my friends, unfortunately, I must be the bearer of bad news. It turns out that at some point during one of the battles in last episode, Beardy was severely injured. He had his spine shattered and has been lying in the hospital ever since. And honestly, I'm not very sure what to do with Beardy. Because of our current tech level, we don't have any bionic spines or anything like that, obviously. However, I do know of a mod that adds wheelchairs, so if a colonist does have a shattered spine, they can still use that to move around, so if that's something you might be interested in seeing, be sure to let me know. Also, real quick, something I wanted to mention, I believe it must have happened during the battle last episode, but the giant statue of Henry was destroyed at some point, or stolen, or something like that, so unfortunately, we no longer have that, but that's alright, as I am going to place an order to create a brand new one. Sure, this brand new one's not going to be made out of any ancient stolen bullfrog jade, but it's okay, we'll make it out of stone. It'll be much more durable. Besides, it's probably going to be best for us to start saving jade and silver and things like that, especially after we begin selling smoke leaf to colonial factions so we can make more and more money. Speaking of which, of course, just before heading home, Kenzaki and her men would actually stop in at the local French settlement and begin selling off everything that we had collected, such as prisoners and weapons and basically everything. And then they finally began making their way all the way back to Rats Valley. And of course, some time later, they had finally arrived back home. Our heroes, our trailblazers, really opening up the path to future technologies through these assault rifles. I mean, sure, we had stolen the technology, and it's not technically our invention, but who gives a shit? Nobody has to know. We're not going to tell them that part. Fortune and destiny favor the bold, and unfortunately for the Bullfrogs and British, they're just not bold enough to win. And that's why we're going to trample the shit out of them. But of course, in the meantime, New Marsai needs a lot of work, and I'm talking about a lot of work. The type of work that, you know, a community can get done, but they would get it done a lot better if they had someone to lead them, like a governor of sorts. Of course though, some amazing leader like a governor is going to need somewhere to live, so we began tearing down a lot of the old structures that were already here and began concocting plans to build a governor's mansion. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any plans this episode to actually make anyone governor. I thought that it may be fun if I let you guys in the comment section down below give me your top picks for who should be governor and your reasoning as to why. If there's something that really catches my eye, or if your reasoning really makes sense and I just, quite frankly, really enjoy it, I will go with what you say. Now, with that being said, I do have a lot of the next episode actually already recorded and things like that, and a little bit of it edited, so you may not see the governor next episode. It might be the episode after or something like that, but just continue leaving your comments so you may just catch my eye. Now, once the governor's mansion was completed, it was time for us to actually focus a bit on infrastructure. Something that we haven't had at New Marsai at all this entire time is a good functioning road, so we decided that we would use some packed dirt, some light packed dirt, as well as some wood to build a road around the colony. Because of course, as I always say, ensuring proper mobility around the colony is going to be crucial to defending said colony as well as ensuring efficient work and whatnot. And now, of course, last but not least, previous episodes I have mentioned how I like to turn this small area here into something of a little bit of a park, a very small park or something of that sort, somewhere they could relax and enjoy themselves and just preserve this ancient history and these ancient ruins. So that is exactly what I decided to do. I ended up using slate cobblestone here, so you can still tell the difference between the ancient ruins as well as the newer stuff that we're building, and it won't be so damn dirty all the time. And I understand that some of you guys may feel that this is unnecessary, a bit trivial and things like that, and I can definitely understand that, but I do also know that a lot of you like these more story elements in our series, and as do I. I like to give the people of New Marsai their own story, their own identity, their own semi-culture, that sort of thing. And in the end, I do think that this very small leisure area slash kind of park street turned out very well. It is actually kind of ugly, but in a beautiful sort of way, in my opinion. It gives some much needed culture and beautiful detail to New Marsai, as well as the people who live here. For these ancient ruins and statues and structures and whatnot, they may not be our history, but this is our home. And though we cannot bring back the ancient civilization that created these ruins and give them their home back or anything like that, we can ensure that their culture lives on through us and becomes a part of our culture and who we are as a people. But of course, guys, I would very much like to thank you for watching this episode. I've had a lot of fun filming it. Sorry that I've been a little MIA here lately. I've been extremely busy. I know that's always my excuse, and I'm always bitching about being busy, but I am always very busy. And yeah, and I've been a little bit burnt out on the Continental Army series. Normally, our series don't go on for more than maybe 8, 9, 10 episodes, something like that, and this one's going past that, and I'm enjoying that, and I'm glad that it is, but to me, it's a bit much when that happens, unfortunately. You know, I get a little tired of it, and I start wanting to work on some other projects, so just bear with me. We're going to, of course, continue the series for much longer, I hope, but I do need a little breaky break on occasion. But you guys be sure to let me know who you think should be the governor of New Marsai in the comment section down below. That would be very much appreciated. Let me know your reasoning as well, because that is very crucial to me. But once again, I would like to say thank you very much for watching today's episode. I love you guys ever so much, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.